Arron, welcome. We've got Arron Banks here. We are going to talk about a subject that has made a lot of news recently. It's the influence of politics on financial markets, and we can get some unique insights from someone who, you do have a certain public profile. What people don't know is that you've actually once worked for Warren Buffett, right?
I did, yeah, for Berkshire Hathaway.
And you have also set up and grown several companies, some of them public as well.
Yeah, I floated a listed insurance broker and currently run a direct insurance company.
And most recently, you've become well known as the so-called godfather of Brexit. That's what the New York Times called you. So you've got some incredible insights into politics. And with the time that we have, we just wanted to get your insights into one of the questions that I believe a lot of you have on your mind. Politics has played such a major role in financial markets in the last 9 months. Is that going to continue? Is it going to possibly even get worse? What's your take on that?
Well, I don't think we've seen the end of the sort of 2016 revolution that started with Brexit and Trump. And I think that the position of Marine Le Pen is probably stronger than a lot of people realize. I'm not saying she's going to win, but depending on who she faces in the runoff, which could very well be Macron, I think she's got a good chance.
And if she does win, that would obviously be very disruptive for stock markets, currency markets in Europe.
Yeah, I don't think it's just France. I think Italy have got elections coming up in March, and there's a lot of turmoil there as well. So I think this kind of potential breakup of the European Union, it continues apace.
And Arron, you've just come back from the United States, as I know, where you're very well connected. You hang out with the likes of Donald Trump, so you get information literally right from the source. How do you see trends such as, obviously Silicon Valley is now very exposed to politics, and you've got companies like Google and Apple and Facebook, which are widely held among our audience. How is politics going to influence these companies and these industries?
Well, we had a fascinating visit to California with Nigel Farage last week, where we were actually talking about, with the Republican base in Orange County, that they want to break California up into East and West. So politics and the way things are being generated is changing. So I think things that were previously thought impossible are quite possible now.
And speaking of the impossible, you've obviously been a big factor in the entire Brexit campaign. And as a little anecdote, I was, in a way, I bet on Brexit because I knew that you had done a poll and you were relaxed on the day.
Yeah.
You tweeted about being relaxed and having a cocktail, which made me think, you know the result
already. We used some American technology that used artificial intelligence, which, funnily enough, we're now using in our business. So we've had some good business wins out of it. But essentially, with a very large poll of nearly 20,000 people, and using artificial intelligence on social media, we got the result within 0.1%, 52-48. So actually, the technology around using social media to work out trends is much more powerful than traditional polling companies, who their methodology is flawed.
So presumably your advice to private investors would be to also follow social media channels quite carefully and alternative media?
I think I think there will be companies that actually work on that as an idea. Just because the crowd is moving in one way doesn't make it right, but certainly for political polling, it's a very interesting idea. But artificial intelligence, I think, is going to be the one thing that will radically change the world, and rapidly. And I can't really tell you which companies to invest in, but from my perspective, that's the sort of thing I'm starting to research now, because these are the companies that will radically change everybody's business model.
And what are your sources of news? You must be a very well-read man. Are there any alternative media channels on the internet that you like to frequent and that are useful for investors? If you can tell us?
I think with the 2 years I spent on Brexit, I stopped reading books. It's been such hard work. We've been exhausted. But all I would say is that people talk about fake news, and they talk about news outlets. What is absolutely the case is you mustn't believe what you see in newspapers, listen to on the television, and it's worth going to find your own news.
And if you had to come up with a couple of, I don't know if that's too much to ask from you, a couple of specific investment ideas of sectors, maybe not necessarily companies that are going to do well in the next couple of years. What's your take there?
Well, I mean, my main business is insurance. I'm also heavily invested in diamond mines in South Africa. But as a standalone investor, I'm pretty much sticking to gold at the moment. I think the quantitative easing that's occurred, I think the dislocations in the world, the chance of bigger shocks are out there. I'm not buying gold directly, but I'm buying gold mining shares like Newmont, Barrick, Randgold, and companies like that that are geared to the gold market.
Do you have a view on the Europe, if going back to the Le Pen subject, which obviously is on the minds of a lot of investors right now because the elections in France are coming up? Do you have a view what the euro might do in the short run?
I discuss this with Jim quite a lot. I'm slightly negative on shorting the euro because its anchor is Germany, and I think what could happen with the euro is it will lose some of its weaker peripheral members, and it might go back to what it should have been at the very beginning, a political union of countries that were suitable for it, and the ones that were plugged in, like Spain, Italy, Greece, might drop away. So in currency terms, I'm probably pro the dollar right now because I think it's going to continue to be strong. I think the pound has probably dropped to its the level it should be at, and the euro I think is quite reasonably priced as well. So I don't really have any good stuff for you there. That's fine.
You are known though to have an incredible radar screen. You recognize trends earlier than others because of how well connected you are and everything that you're doing in your business. Do you see any surprises coming out of the United States or any major developments that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, I'd certainly be looking at property in the United States. I think Trump will put through a package of tax cuts that will boost the economy. And I think for that reason, we're going to see a strong dollar. And the sorts of things I've started to look at are property funds in the States that are US denominated and could benefit from both trends.
And just going briefly back to social media and artificial intelligence, are there any ways how private investors, with the resources that we have, the capabilities for research that is available to us, how can we identify companies that are doing well in this respect and therefore might perform better than others?
I think it's very difficult to pick the winners at this stage. I mean, if I look at our own direct insurance business, we've got a team of over 25 people now working directly on artificial intelligence. We've linked up with the University of Mississippi, with Stanford and various other places. But what the key to look for is the speed at which the companies are adopting the artificial intelligence, because they will be the winners. So I would look for bigger companies that are perhaps more aggressive in how they're going to deploy that technology.
Okay, and any final words of advice you want to give to our audience with regards to being on the lookout for political surprises or economic surprises?
I think they're known, aren't they? You've got France, which I think is going to be a much closer race than people say. And I think the nation-state concept is growing within the European Union, particularly in the East with Poland and Hungary and other countries. I do think the European Union's days are numbered, but the pace at which it unravels, is to be seen. Maybe a banking crisis in Italy. That would be probably the big thing to look for.
Do you think the banking crisis will kick off again in Italy?
Yes, I do, yeah.
In earnest?
And I think we're already, Jim alluded to it with French and Italian bonds. We're already seeing the risk premium start to rise. There isn't enough money in the European Union to bail out the Italian banking system if it has a proper full-blown crisis.
Arron Banks, thank you very much for taking the time to come here in your busy schedule and for your insights. Thank you.